Blasphemy. We're on the section on belying the religion. That's a type of blasphemy. We just got out of the section on atheism. And there was something that I did not mention to you about the atheism or the atheists. But because really it is documented here in the book. Because if you remember, we have a section here about likening, exaltation, and atheism. God comparing exaltation and God denial. And we have here a section on atheism. What is the difference between this section on atheism and that one? That this section on atheism is about atheism as a doctrine. What do atheists believe? And what do they say? Yani, this section with its footnotes. Whereas the section on atheism that we are just getting out of is about atheism as a type of blasphemy. So if you put those two sections together, you'll have a lot of information, or a good amount of information on atheism. And what I want to mention to you about atheism here before we move on to the next topic of blasphemy, which is belying the religion, is that there are two broad madhabs of atheism, or atheists. Those, both of them deny the existence of the Creator. That's what makes an atheist an atheist. But one of them believes that the world has no beginning, and one of them says that the world has a beginning. Those are your two broad madhabs of atheists. Those who said the world has no beginning, and those who said the world has a beginning. Because once you deny the existence of the Creator, then you have to answer the question about where the world came from. Does it have a beginning or does not have a beginning? So for sure it has a beginning. And some atheists, they say so. Like those who believe in the Big Bang. But even those, some of them might say there's no beginning. They might say before that explosion there were chemicals, properties, gases. Those were existing before that bang. And then, well, where those came from. So maybe they're going to say before that there was something else. And then they keep going backwards. So that's tasalsul. Then they would be believing that the world has no beginning in some form or another. Others, they believe that the world has no beginning for its existence. It was always existing in some form or another. And they believe that everything around us is, in its material, is eternal. Even if it's not, according to them, eternal in its shape, in its current state. They believe, though, that something was always existing. Okay, so those are your two schools of atheists. I didn't mention that last time, but it is mentioned elsewhere in the book. Now we want to move on and talk about takdhib, belying the religion. Footnote. Benefit. Know that the linguistic meaning of jahd, that's it's the same kufr here, another name for it, which can also be called juhud, is denial with knowledge. As mentioned in dictionaries like Al-Mukhtar and Al-Qamus, denying a religious matter has details, because that religious matter would either be a matter of unanimous agreement or of difference in opinion. Either it's a case of ijma', agreement, consensus, or ikhtilaf, difference in opinion. As for the first case, which is the case of consensus, it has two branches. Either it is an essential creed or not. Fundamental, essential creed or not. An essential creed is like believing in Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Other than an essential creed is like the detailed rules, such as prayer and fasting. So, essential creed, that's a matter of consensus. And other than an essential creed, that's a matter of consensus. Other than an essential creed is like a rule or a practical rule. Then each of these categories is divided into two branches because each of them is either known by necessity or not. Yani, an essential creed, that's a matter of consensus and known by necessity. Or other than an essential creed, that is a matter of consensus and known by necessity. Or not known by necessity. Known by necessity in this context means that it is obviously known to all Muslims, scholars and laymen alike. That means known by necessity, ma'lumun min ad-dini bil-darura, is common religious knowledge. What is known only to the scholars and unknown to the layman is not known by necessity. And remember, you could say, what is known only to the people of knowledge and unknown to the ignorant is not known by necessity. What's the difference there? If you say scholars and laymen, then the students of knowledge are counted amongst the laymen. If you say people of knowledge and ignorant ones, then the students of knowledge are counted amongst the people of knowledge. And those who are not even students of knowledge are the ignorant ones. What is known only to the scholars? So how? Can you be more clear, please? Yes. So, yeah, I'll repeat. We said known by necessity means what is obviously known to all Muslims if it's known by necessity. Scholars and laymen alike. We say scholars and laymen. Then, yeah, we say al-alim or al-ulama. Then this does not include students of knowledge because they're not scholars. So then they're going to be laymen. The students of knowledge are amongst the laymen. But if you just word it differently and you say the people of knowledge versus al-jahilun, the ignorant people, then the people of knowledge includes the students of knowledge too, because they're not amongst the ignorant ones. Yani, the students of knowledge, they know what the people who are not even students of knowledge don't know. Like the scholars, the students of knowledge know what those who are not students of knowledge don't know. What is known only to the scholars and unknown to the layman is not known by necessity. So it's not right to label them as the people of knowledge. You mean the students of knowledge instead of scholars? There's no problem with either way. It's just either you're going to say it this way or that way. So probably wherever I translated this from, then this is why it's like that. The scholars versus the layman. In some other places, you would see it worded differently. Yeah, and it depends just only on how you say it. Only. It's not really big issue here. Scholars, if you say scholars, then it does not include the students of knowledge. If you say people of knowledge, then it includes the students of knowledge. If you say the laymen versus not scholars, it means the students of knowledge are laymen. Or if you say the ignorant ones, meaning not people of knowledge, then the students of knowledge are not ignorant ones. So they have somewhere in the middle there. It just only depends on how you word it. Like, what can make this more clear? Isn't it that traditionally the level of the naqala is not even counted as a level of scholarship? The level of the record keepers traditionally is not even counted as a level of scholarship. They're not ignorant though. They know many things that the laymen don't know, or that the or that the people who are not people of knowledge know. Subhanallah, what's his name? Ibn Hajar al-Haytami. He has a book in fiqh, although he's of the level of the record keepers, he authored a book in fiqh that some of the Shafi'is take as their final book. Their final book. So that means he has knowledge. He's not even in the highest levels of scholarship. He wrote a book that some of the Shafi'is use as their final book. Is he considered among the laymen or scholars in our context here? It's not the context here, it's the words actually, just the actual words. If you want to count this level of the naqala as scholars, then he's a scholar. If you want to take by traditional way and don't count the level of the naqala as scholars, then we're not going to say he's a scholar. Yeah, the scholars teach from Ibn Hajar's book, yes. Yeah, subhanallah. When I knew about that, I was very encouraged and what's the word? Inspired. MashaAllah. Played. And that did even clarify something for me, because I did notice that sometimes someone would be a very high scholar. If you look at his book, you would see it at a level, and someone would be lower than him. If you look at his book, it's like his book is higher than the book of someone who is a higher scholar than him. And it depends on the amount of information put in there, how it's arranged, etc. Then it might be actually a higher level. Insha'Allah ta'ala. So, what is known only to the scholars and unknown to the layman is not known by necessity. It's not common knowledge. If this is clear, then if that unanimously agreed upon matter that was denied is an essential creed, the essential creeds themselves are of two divisions, as the Shaykh said in his Bughya and in Qawa'id Muhimma. Yeah. As the Shaykh said in the Bughya and in Qawa'id Muhimma. I was just going to say, this talk is from Qawa'id Muhimma. The first is the creed that even the mere doubt in it is blasphemy. So we talk about essential creeds here. There's two categories of the essential creeds. Essential creeds that are by necessity, by consensus. The first is the creed that even the mere doubt about it is blasphemy, let alone denying it. The mere doubt would be blasphemy, let alone denying it, such as the belief in Allah, and the belief in His messengers, and the belief that Islam is the only valid religion. This is the injustice and blasphemy committed by the pagans. This is blasphemy even if one were a new convert to Islam. Yani, doubting about Allah, doubting about His messengers, doubting that Islam is the only correct religion. One would blaspheme even if he were a new convert, because this is the base of the religion. This is the most fundamental base of the religion. You can't be a Muslim without this. So even a new convert would be a kafir if this is not intact for him. Belief in Allah, belief in His messengers, and belief in Islam is the only right religion. The other category of essential creed by consensus is that which doubting it or denying it is not necessarily blasphemy. Because although it is a matter of consensus, it is not known by necessity, like the basin. The basin. And if you were to ask the scholars, what is the proof in the Quran for this basin? They're going to tell you Surah Al-Kawthar. Surah Al-Kawthar doesn't even mention the basin. Yeah. So a lot of Muslims don't know about the basin. How is the Surah Al-Kawthar is a proof for the basin? Because of the hadiths that are attached to that. Which is that Al-Kawthar is a river that flows throughout paradise and then empties out of paradise through a pipe into the basin. That part is confirmed in the hadith. And there's other hadiths about the basin. Many Muslims don't know about the basin, so if someone were to deny it, we're not going to deem him as a kafir, since that is not known in the religion by necessity. Which ayah? Surah Al-Kawthar. In Surah Al-Kawthar, the first ayah mentions the Kawthar river. Inna a'tainaka al-kawthar. This here mentions the river of Al-Kawthar. This ayah. That's the first ayah of Surah Al-Kawthar. So one would not blaspheme for denying the basin unless his denial were from stubbornness, takveeb. Unless his denial were takveeb and jahd and juhud, then he's going to blaspheme. The second type of religious case is that which is not an essential belief, such as detailed rules. Denying the unanimous matter that is known by necessity is blasphemy. Why? Both of these together, not one of them. A unanimous matter. Being a unanimous matter, a case of consensus, is not enough to deem a person as a kafir. Just because it's a case of ijma', you don't use that to say, that's blasphemy. This is ijma' you are denying. That's blasphemy. Rather, when it is ijma', what that proves is that it's correct. Being a case of ijma' proves that it is indisputably correct. But it still might not be known in the religion by necessity. It still might not be common religious knowledge. Therefore, if it is not common religious knowledge, then the one who denies it is not a kafir unless he knew about it. Denying the unanimous matter that is known by necessity is blasphemy because it alludes to belying the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like denying the obligation of the 5 prayers. And this right here is very, very, very important here. Belying the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the essence of all blasphemy. This is the essence, the quintessence of all blasphemy. Belying the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Keep that close so that might help you to be able to determine if somebody committed blasphemy or not. For example, some people ask this question: what if someone says that a man got pregnant? They said to a man, you're pregnant. Is that blasphemy? So I will say to the person, why would it be blasphemy? What makes it blasphemy? So what he's going to say to me? I think he's going to say, it's not true. So I'm going to say, just because something's not true doesn't mean it's blasphemy. From what angle did you find that this statement should be blasphemy, or at least it troubled you so that you had to ask if it's blasphemy or not? Did you find a hadith? For example, if there were a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said, a man will not get pregnant. And we know men don't get pregnant, but there's a point here. If there were a hadith that says that, then you would be able to say to me, because he's contradicting the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Or if there were an ayah that says that, I don't know one, that says that men do not get pregnant, then you will be able to say, because contradicting the Quran. So I'm going to be wondering why you saw this as maybe blasphemy, and then you had to ask, what do you understand blasphemy to be? Surely you cannot understand blasphemy to be merely something that's wrong, merely a wrong statement, an inaccurate statement, or a lie. We're not going to say it's blasphemy because it's a lie or an inaccurate statement. So what is the blasphemy? What would make anything blasphemy? It's going to be blasphemy because it's belying the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And saying anyway that a man got pregnant is nothing but a majaz, for example. Like he had a big belly, so someone said, oh, you're pregnant. You don't have to be afraid he's blaspheming. That's just like if someone was messy, so you said, you're a pig. Or if someone was brave, so you said, you're a lion. It's not blasphemy. So, denying the unanimous matter that is known by necessity is blasphemy, because it alludes to belying the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like denying the obligation of the 5 prayers. I don't know a hadith. Somebody's going to tell me a hadith that the Prophet said that then. Who will tell me? Allude, yani, yeah, ya'ulu or yu'addi or yeah, yu'addi ila. Alludes to belying the Prophet, yu'addi, yani leads to, or hints at contradicting the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. Like denying the obligation of the 5 prayers. This is blasphemy unless the denier was like a new convert to Islam. Because then his denial does not allude to belying the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yes, this is why the one who's a new Muslim and then he denied something that is a matter of consensus and is known in the religion by necessity, but he's a new Muslim, so it is conceivable that he does not know. So he is denying something which is not permissible. He should not speak without knowledge. But it's not because of his ignorance a case of contradicting the Prophet ﷺ on his part. From his own perspective, that is. His denial is not coming from a place of belying the Prophet ﷺ. It's coming from a place, for example, of thinking that his opinion is reality. He didn't know yet that your opinion is pretty much weightless unless you're an expert about something. What is agreed upon but not known by necessity is called khafi, hidden, yani obscure, not apparent. Its denial does not necessitate blasphemy. Denying the khafi, denying the khafi. Khafi is that it is agreed upon, that means definitely correct. But not known by necessity means not common religious knowledge. Its denial does not necessitate blasphemy unless it were from stubbornness. Yani, then he's going to blaspheme. Then his blasphemy is going to be kufrul inad, the kufr of obstinacy, stubbornness. So our topic now is kufru takdhib, the blasphemy of belying the religion, which is kufrul juhud, which is the blasphemy of denial with knowledge. And we are saying that it could be that someone is denying something khafi, hidden. We just defined what that means. Then it's going to be a different kufr. Then it's going to be kufrul inad, the kufr of obstinacy. That is like knowing that sexual intercourse before being at Arafah spoils the Hajj. And that the granddaughter from the son inherits a sixth if the daughter is present. See, these are examples of things that the students know too, not only the scholars, but the laymen who do not study. They don't know these details. As for the subject of different opinions, there is no objection to whoever takes any valid opinion. And we're not going to deem a person a kafir for saying that saying is wrong. What did Shafi'i say? What did someone say? What did Shafi'i say? Tell me. Then we say to him, a Shafi'i said such and such. He says, it's wrong. So we're not going to say, what? That's blasphemy. No. Because a Shafi'i is not the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we would be saying something that is a matter of his professional legal opinion. So we can't deem him as a kafir here. The essence of all blasphemy is belying the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not belying a Shafi'i, for example. Even some people ask me, at what point would a person blaspheme for contradicting one of the madhabs? He's not going to blaspheme for contradicting the saying of a fallible person like a Shafi'i or Abu Hanifa or Malik, or lower than them, or even higher than them, like one of the Sahaba. If he denies what Abu Bakr said or Umar said, he's still not going to be a kafir. So, as for the subject of different opinions, there is no objection to anyone who takes any valid opinion, unless he is doing what he believes is forbidden. Yani, unless he is taking the madhab that says that what he is doing is haram, then we will object to him. The Sheikh copies that from the scholars in Sarihul Bayan, and Allah knows best. Yes. The author says, one blasphemes for takdhib, contradicting the religious judgments, even if he did not know that such a saying takes him out of Islam. So we know very well that not knowing the judgment of what you said will not save you from the judgment of what you said in terms of blasphemy, except the case of a new Muslim and the one who is similar to a new Muslim. Footnote. Yani, this footnote goes to this statement. One blasphemes for contradicting the religious judgments. Our Sheikh said, أو تحليل محرم بالإجماع معلوم من الدين بالضرورة مما لا يخفى عليه. So now it became more clear. لا يخفى. Okay. It's not khafi. Not khafi for him, but in case of ijma, what did we just take from the previous footnote? That when something is a case of ijma and ma'lumun min ad-dini bi-darura, mujma'un alayhi ma'lumun min ad-dini bi-darura, denying it is blasphemy unless you're a new Muslim. Remove ma'lumun min ad-dini bi-darura. Only if it's a case of ijma without being known in the religion by necessity, then you call it khafi. And the Sheikh said, this person's going to blaspheme for these things that are not khafi. كالزنا واللواط والقتل والسرقة والغصب أو تحريم حلال ظاهر كذلك كالبيع والنكاح أو نفي وجوب مجمع عليه كذلك كالصلوات الخمس أو سجدة منها والزكاة والصوم والحج والوضوء أو إيجاب ما لم يجب إجماعا أو نفي مشروعية مجمع عليه كذلك. Okay. So you know that from the summary of obligatory knowledge. The Sheikh said, legitimating what is commonly known among the Muslims to be unlawful, such as adultery and fornication, sodomy, killing, stealing, and taking the money of others by force. So none of that is khafi. All of that is zahir, obvious in the religion. Who denies that is a kafir unless he's a new Muslim or like a new Muslim. And also deeming unlawful what is commonly known among the Muslims to be lawful, such as selling and marriage. Yes. So you take a lesson from that. If someone told you selling is invalid, you're going to say that's blasphemy. Don't hesitate here. If someone says marriage is wrong thing to do or invalid, then you're going to say that's blasphemy. Yani, that open statement is blasphemy. Yes. Also here, MashaAllah, let this help you take an understanding for the case of general statements. Some people, it's not clear for them. If they say, all men are dogs, for example, all Arabs are such and such, for example. When they say that, then they are including the prophets. If they say all men, they included prophets. If they say all Arabs, they included some prophets. And then someone will say, well, but I didn't mean it. So what if someone said selling is invalid? You're going to tell them that's blasphemy. Then you'll say, I didn't mean all of it. You're telling me it's blasphemy. You said it. What you said is blasphemy. You didn't say your shahada. I'm not going to deem you as a Muslim as long as you don't repent from this. Or someone says marriage is invalid. You're going to tell them that's blasphemy. You didn't say muta marriage is invalid. You didn't say the marriage of a Muslim woman to a kafir man is invalid. You didn't say gay marriage is invalid. You said marriage is invalid. That's blasphemy. Or renouncing the obligation of matters commonly known among the Muslims to be obligatory, such as the 5 obligatory prayers, or one of their prostrations, zakat, fasting, pilgrimage, and ablution. And all of those are known to be obligatory. The prayers, or even sujood in the prayer, or the zakat, or the fasting, or the hajj, or the wudu. And deeming obligatory the matters commonly known among the Muslims not to be obligatory. Deeming obligatory what the Muslims know is not obligatory, like Sunnatul Fajr. That's the example we learned. Renouncing the legitimacy of what all Muslims know is legitimate. Some people put rewardability here for mashru'. Mashru' does not mean rewardable. Mashru' means sanctioned. Renouncing the sanctioning of what all Muslims know is sanctioned. Religiously sanctioned. Okay. Like what? Like circumcision. Denying circumcision. So, just repeating for you that this book here has all the examples of apostasy from the Mukhtasar and all the examples of blasphemy from As-Sirat al-Mustaqim distributed. So one blasphemes for takdhib, contradicting the religious judgments, even if he did not know that such a saying takes him out of Islam, except the case of a new Muslim and the one who is similar to the new Muslim. Yes. Footnote. The judgments that have consensus are of 2 types. The first refers to what is very obvious and well known, whether an obligation, prohibition, recommendation, a disliked matter, or something permitted. This is from Qawaid Muhimma. The one who denies these cases is not a Muslim, unless he never heard of such issues because he was a new Muslim or like a new Muslim. The second type refers to what is not commonly known to both the scholars and the common men. The one who denies those cases or doubts about them does not blaspheme. So I think that's very clear right now. Like the prohibition of shaking hands with a marriageable woman, even without desire. Someone would say, it's not haram. Why is haram not haram? That's the denial. We're talking about denying. So this means someone would say it's not haram to shake hands with a marriageable woman without a barrier if there's no desire. We're going to say, subhanallah, this is something not known in the religion by necessity, and therefore we will not charge you or deem you as a kafir for this denial of yours. If it is not known by necessity, he is a major sinner for breaching the consensus. Yeah, he should not speak without knowledge. If a Muslim woman marries a non-Muslim, she is a major sinner or a kafir. Well, it's not kufr. It's only going to be kufr if she says it's valid. And when you say she married him, this statement really means she did what someone would call a marriage because she's not married to him. So if a Muslim woman did what someone would call a marriage with a kafir, then that's not enough to deem her as a kafir. But if she deems it lawful, that's blasphemy. Valid, if she deems it valid or lawful, that's blasphemy. But merely doing the act only, we're not going to deem her as a kafir for that. And other than the excusable cases already mentioned, we're not talking about the cases that have excuse, slip of the tongue, etc. We're not talking about that. So it is, takdhib, the blasphemy of contradicting the religion. It is to belie what was mentioned in the Quran or what was mentioned by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or what is commonly known by necessity to be among the rules of the religion. So it's very clear right now. Alhamdulillah. Footnote, whoever denies any religious knowledge that is known by necessity blasphemes. Okay, so we said that many times. And that's a reflection of what's in the books of the Sheikh. He said it so many times. Being known by necessity refers to what is obviously known by both scholars and common Muslims. Yes, we repeated that many times now, just today. It is called known by necessity as a figure of speech. Yes. معلوم بالضرورة. معلوم بالضرورة. Known by necessity, that's a figure of speech. How that's a figure of speech, majaz? Because what is truly known by necessity, truly here means in a literal sense. The very literal sense of something being known by necessity is knowing it without any inference or deduction. Like what is known by intuition. What is known intuitively, like your self-awareness of yourself, your existence of your awareness of your own existence. You know you exist. Your awareness of your own existence, that's known by necessity. Is 5 prayers known that way? No. Do you know there are 5 prayers like you know about your own existence? No. Or that if someone is in the room with you and you see him right there, so you know he's there. That's known by necessity. You have to think and say, what is it that I see? Is this a real person or is this a hallucination on my part? I don't know if what I am seeing is something real. No. You're going to know. That's known by necessity. You don't have to think about it. Is knowing the obligation of fasting Ramadan like knowing the presence of some person who's in the room with you? No, not really, not literally. So, the literal meaning of knowing something by necessity is knowing it without any inference and without any deduction. There are religious rules that are so well known that they are similar to that. Not exactly like that, but similar to that. So that when you say to a person, for example, is pork halal? He will tell you no immediately. Is wine halal? No. Are 5 prayers obligatory? Yes. Doesn't have to think. From this perspective, they called some of the religious knowledge known by necessity. Since these religious issues are so common and they immediately come to mind without thought, if one were to be asked about them, they were called known by necessity. Denying the judgment after being aware of it would be blasphemy and apostasy. So, takveeb is to belie what was mentioned in the Quran or what was mentioned by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or what is commonly known by necessity to be among the rules of the religion, like believing that paradise or hellfire would come to an end. That's blasphemy. And nothing's going to save you here but being a new Muslim or like a new Muslim. Or believing that the pleasure in paradise is not experienced by the senses, or that the torture of hellfire is not experienced by the body. Yeah, I mean, the meaning of all of this is believing that paradise and hell are not physical. Believing that paradise and hell are not physical. That's blasphemy. Because it is contradicting what is very clear in the Quran. For example, وَلَحْمِ طَيْرٍ مِّمَّا يَشْتَهُونَ. The flesh of birds that they desire. They eat that in paradise. So how is it not real if they are eating the flesh of birds? And Allah says, that there is shade in hell. Shade. Shade in hell. The shade in hell is punishing. There's torture in the shade of hell. So it's real. Or denying that bodies and souls will be resurrected. Denying the obligation of the 5 prayers, fasting Ramadan, or paying zakat, like we said already. Believing that it is absolutely not permissible to divorce. Yes. Believing that drinking alcohol is permissible. Legalizing intercourse with the menstruating woman. Hizb ut-Tahrir's legitimation of walking towards a sin. They said walking towards the sin is permissible. That's blasphemy. A'udhu billah. Why some people don't take the time to think about what's coming out of their mouths? Subhanallah. Believing that magic is lawful or something good. Let's see these footnotes here. We have a footnote here. Or denying that bodies and souls will be resurrected. Among the exaggerating Rawafid, those are the Shiites, are the Mansuriyah, the followers of Abu Mansur al-Ijli. He claimed that he was raised up to the sky and that Allah wiped on his head and then sent him back down. And then sent him back down to earth. These Mansuriyah, they deny Judgment Day, paradise, and hell, and they say that the pleasures of this life are paradise, and that the trials of this life are hell. That's blasphemy. Denying the obligation of the 5 prayers, fasting Ramadan, or paying zakat. Footnote. The Janahiyya are also among the exaggerating Rawafid. They are Shiites. The followers of Abdullah ibn Muawiyah ibn Abdullah ibn Ja'far ibn Abi Talib. They denied Judgment Day, paradise, and hell like the Mansuriyah, and they legitimized fornication, sodomy, drinking wine, and eating dead meat. They furthermore denied the obligation of prayer, fasting, zakat, and hajj. So, blasphemy. Legitimizing intercourse with the menstruating woman. That's in the Bughya. Source of that one. Hizb ut-Tahrir's legitimation of walking towards a sin. Footnote. They distributed a document in the city of Tripoli, Lebanon, that includes negating the sin of walking towards the act of fornication or committing atrocities, the sin of walking towards committing atrocities with a boy. According to them, this sin is only in the sexual act itself. That's blasphemy. And they were so confident about what they were saying that they put a pamphlet out about it. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And believing that magic is lawful or something good, this is blasphemy as documented in the Bughya. The Sheikh says, because magic is forbidden and it is among the major sins, and legitimating it is blasphemy. The new Muslim who denies the existence of hell is excused if he never heard that the Muslims believe in hell. Yeah. And likewise, paradise or angels, for example. As for if he heard that Muslims believe in hell, and after it being confirmed for him, he denied it, then he blasphemes. Yes. And also, when we say new Muslim, what really matters is his ignorance, not his newness. Because possible that there would be a kafir who lived amongst Muslims and became familiar with their religion, even very familiar, And then he embraced Islam, so he would be a new Muslim, but he will not have the judgment of a new Muslim because he is aware of many things. He will be a new Muslim with knowledge, so then these rules would not apply to him. One does not blaspheme for denying the terms of a mutawatir hadith. That's from Qawa'id Muhimma. Not the meanings, the terms, just the wording. The wording of the mutawatir hadith, if he denies that, he does not blaspheme. Because even a mutawatir hadith could have renditions with various wordings. So denying the words, the wording, or the phrasing of a mutawatir hadith is not blasphemy. If he denies the meaning of the mutawatir hadith, then there are two cases. Yani it goes back to what we already know. If the meaning is known by necessity, then one blasphemes for denying it. And if the meaning is not known by necessity, then he does not blaspheme for denying it. Of course, if someone knew or merely believed that the Prophet ﷺ said any hadith, and he still denies it, then he blasphemes regardless of the status of the hadith, because that is the essence of all blasphemy. Contradicting and belying and denying Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa ansarihi wa azwajihi wa dhurriyatihi wa ahli baytihi wa ikhwanihi nabiyyin wa sallam. The ruling is different for the one who denies even one letter of the Quran, for he would blaspheme. This does not include those who add or subtract letters from the Quran because of ignorance or because of memorizing incorrectly. They did not blaspheme, yes. And when we say the Quran here, we mean according to any recitation. According to any recitation of the Quran. If someone knew that this is a recitation of the Quran and he denied a letter from there, he blasphemes. But if he did not know, then he wouldn't blaspheme. Like, he only knew one recitation. And then he saw another recitation spelled differently from how he knows it to be. So he thought that that's a perversion. So he denied it. He does not blaspheme. So the ruling is different for the one who denies even one letter of the Quran. He would blaspheme. Okay, yes. But not those who add a letter out of ignorance or out of wrong memory, or those who subtract a letter from the Quran out of ignorance or out of wrong memory. These ones don't blaspheme. The recitation, because when we say the Quran includes all of its recitations. The Quran is not one recitation. The Quran means all of its ayat, all of its surah, and all of its qira'at. All of that is the Quran. Denying any of that is blasphemy. Except if a person didn't know that that's a letter from the Quran, for example. Inshallah, that's clear. This recitation matter, like he didn't know. So if he didn't know, then he doesn't blaspheme. That this is in another recitation. Yeah, so then that goes here. This does not include those who add or subtract letters from the Quran because of ignorance. So they don't blaspheme. So does that answer for you? He said, I went to a local masjid. The imam said, hands of Allah. Is it blasphemy? Did you learn the rule about when a statement has more than one meaning in the language? Okay. For your question, Brother Bilal. Did he know that was a letter from the Quran? I think your question means he does not know. So he does not blaspheme. Well, if he knew it's a letter from the Quran, then he blasphemes. Did he know it's from the Quran or he did not know it's from the Quran? Tell me. He knew it's from the... Then he blasphemes. There's still a question here. So someone said, the Imam said, hands of Allah. So I asked, did you learn about the rules of when a statement can have more than one meaning? So this is not explicit. So if he meant that Allah has organs, he committed blasphemy. If he meant that something that's not blasphemy, then he did not commit blasphemy. These words can have more than one meaning. The rule is here, like we have it documented here, I'll show you, that one did not intend the blasphemous meaning of what appears to be blasphemy, like saying Allah is high or saying in God's hands, and many examples that shall be mentioned, God willing. He said blasphemy of obstinacy is the same as blasphemy of belying. The words don't mean the same thing. So, for example, okay, that's a question. Yeah, for example, didn't the Sheikh teach us the example when someone says, Asian had the shara? What kind of law is this? Or that's istighfaf. But the obstinacy, they are close. They go hand in hand there. The words themselves don't mean the same thing. Sometimes you will say something. Sometimes you give two categories to something. Something will be given two categories. If you look so close, it's like they're the same thing. It's just the difference is just how you're looking at it, just the perspective. Like, for example, didn't we say there's a blasphemy called shirk and there's a blasphemy called tashbih? Really, they are the same. But shirk, you're going to call it shirk if you look at it from the perspective of the person giving a partner to Allah. And you're going to call it tashbih when you look at it from the perspective of a person making a comparison for Allah. But they are really the same. Or, for example, you might say Allah is one, and you might say Allah is not similar to anything. So those words, they don't themselves mean exactly the same thing, but just by the perspective from which you are looking at it is what made you able to split them. When you look at it from the perspective of the person denying, the fact that there's a denial, then you're going to call it takdhib. But if you look at it from the perspective of his not wanting to accept it and preferring his own idea, for example, then you're going to call it inad. So we don't know what's in his heart. Give him the benefit of the doubt. Why though? Because the statement can have more than one meaning. That's the part that needs to be clear. This, when you say we don't know what's in his heart, we give him the benefit of the doubt. That's when the statement can have more than one meaning, then yes, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Say maybe he meant the other meaning or another meaning. But when he says explicit, we don't give him the benefit of the doubt. If he said, I hate God, we don't give him the benefit of the doubt here. Or like some person did, when they didn't like something that happened, they looked up to the sky and they put up two middle fingers to the sky, like they're pointing their middle fingers up to the sky, and they said, and then they started insulting someone. This is blasphemy. It was yani, this meaning, it was clear what the person was saying. So I'm not going to say, maybe he was giving middle finger to the cloud. Oh, maybe there was a pigeon that flew by, gave middle finger to him. No, that's not what it meant. And he said words too. I just don't want to say those words because they were very bad words. So I'm not saying it. وَسُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ وَبِحَمْدِهِ